On this episode, we are going to be answering the question, is the real estate market going to crash? Let's talk about that coming up. Welcome, I'm your host, Steve Penate, realtor and host of the Steve Talks Real Estate Show, where we bring you value, content, and tips in all things real estate and housing related. So much has happened in the year 2020. We started off with the real estate market on fire. Interest rates were at historical lows. Buyer demand was so strong, and we kept on seeing house prices go up due to the lack of supply. At the same time, we saw interest rates keep going lower and lower, and that brought in an influx of people wanting to refi. As a matter of fact, I was encouraging my past clients, hey, I haven't seen interest rates this low ever, I think. Contact your lender and refinance your house right now. Nonetheless, with the influx of people wanting to refinance their mortgages, banks couldn't keep up. And so the mortgage industry started to shake a little bit simply because they couldn't keep up with so many loans. On the other side, buyer demand kept going strong, and all of a sudden, in comes the coronavirus. And the situation we are in as a nation has really shook everybody to its core. We saw businesses literally come to a screeching halt and close their doors. We're seeing people laid off from their jobs, loss of income. At the same time, many cities have implemented shelter in place, and that's really affected the way real estate agents have been able to do business. So with all this happening, I wanted to answer the questions. So many people have been contacting me on Facebook, Instagram, and they've been asking me this question: Steve, what is going to happen with the real estate market? Is it about to crash? Are prices going to come tumbling down? And so I wanted to come and bring some perspective and some clarity to this conversation. Now, here's a disclaimer, okay? There are so many unknowns when it comes to what really is going to happen on the other side of this crisis we're in and the shelter in place, okay? So a lot of our predictions are determined based on how long we are in the current situation we're in, okay? Much of what we're seeing right now is due to the fact that literally business has come to a screeching halt. The stock markets got beat up the past few weeks. We've seen people that were laid off, loss of income. People are once again applying for unemployment. There's so much going on. So a lot of what we are going to be talking about is really going to depend on how long we are going to be in the situation we're in. So let's talk about some things happening already. Now, some cities are going to be affected much harder than other cities. Let me give you an example, okay? Las Vegas is a city that really relies on tourism for its economic income. Okay, that city is heavily based on people flying in, staying in hotels, restaurants, and losing money at the casinos. Well, guess what? Right now, the whole strip is literally shut down. Not only that, okay, people have actually been let go already. When a city really depends on something that is closed, the impacts are going to be felt much harder than in other areas. So, for example, I do real estate in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and still operate my real estate business in Phoenix, Arizona. And so those two areas are very similar. And even though they have both implemented shelter in place, at the same time, a lot of people have been able to work from home, and the economic impact hasn't yet been felt as hard as other cities like Las Vegas, Los Angeles, New York, and other areas that have really been already affected very hard from this pandemic we're in. So let's talk about what things we could start seeing, okay? So for those that are probably thinking that the real estate market is going to, completely crash this year, I don't believe that is going to be the case. Okay, what we are living through does not resemble 2008 in so many ways. Remember, in 2008, they were loaning people money for homes that couldn't afford the mortgages. Literally, all you had to do is just write a letter and say, hey, I make this amount. Here's my proof. I wrote this letter. Trust me. And banks were loaning out loans and people were buying houses they could not afford. Fast forward 2020, lending overall was still pretty strict. They wanted proof of income. They wanted you to have a decent credit score. So to be honest with you, in so many ways, stricter lending was actually really good for us, really healthy for us, because people that were buying houses were well qualified to actually buy the house. In other words, they were qualified enough to be trusted enough to make the mortgage payments. So at the same time, it's estimated that today in the year 2020, 1 in 2 Americans either owns their house free and clear and or is sitting on enough equity to be able to sell the house if they have to and walk out winning. So let's talk about markets like Phoenix, Arizona, and Dallas-Fort Worth, and or similar markets like that. So these markets will probably be affected a lot less in the sense that buyer demand could possibly continue strong. These are cities and areas that have seen such a large influx of people moving in from other states. So people from California are moving to Texas. People from Washington are moving to Phoenix, Arizona. These are states that have seen so much growth from people moving in from other states. Companies and businesses have moved into these cities for so many reasons, but it's brought so much economic growth and population growth. So buyer demand was very strong. So on the other side though, even though buyer demand could continue strong, where we could eventually see a slowdown is the fact that the economy is getting punched in the face. Businesses are closed. There's no revenue coming into businesses. There are so many things happening. And so what we could end up seeing is this. If this quarantine lifestyle continues, okay, if this crisis continues for an extended period of time, well, that could be to more people losing their jobs and people making less money. Okay, so if we get to that point, what does that mean? Well, if people are making less money and or become unemployed, we could come to a place where buyer demand softens. The pool of buyers could become less and less due to the fact of the economic impact that has happened and is continue to happen. So if buyer demand goes down, okay, that means house prices will eventually be coming down as well to meet that response from buyers, okay? If there are less buyers out there, sellers will have to bring their house prices down in order to attract those buyers that are out there. So depending on the overall economic impact, we have to pay attention to buyer demand. Buyer demand is going to be a big focus here. And so buyer demand is influenced by economics. People have jobs. Is there confidence in the economy? Is there confidence in people believing that they have job security? All this is going to play into the fact of buyer demand. Now for sellers, okay, buyer demand is continuing right now for the moment. But once again, long term, that might change due to the fact that in the financial world, we've been really beat up, and that always trickles down. Okay, so for people that want to sell their house, sooner is probably better than later, simply because right now at least people are still out there buying. There still is confidence out there that this crisis won't last much longer. And so if that's the case, we're still seeing buyers out there house shopping, and in cities like Phoenix, Arizona, and also Dallas Fort Worth, where people are moving into from other areas, buyer demand is still continuing strong. Sellers still have an opportunity to capitalize off of that. Inventory is still low. Okay, that's a positive for those people that want to sell their house. Overall, inventory is still low, and if inventory is still low and buyer demand is still going strong, prices are gonna hold steady. Okay, now, once again, if buyer demand begins to soften, sellers, we could see an influx of houses coming on the market. Okay, so people that might need the income in the midst of everything happening right now might want to sell their house in order to cash out on their equity. At the same time, we could have some investors that are probably going to want to sell their house in order to liquidate. Okay, I have friends that own Airbnbs that have gone to absolutely no one renting those houses, and so now they are contemplating putting their houses on the market because they can't afford having 4 mortgage payments. So there are many things that could happen that could increase supply in the market. If supply begins to increase, okay, and buyer demand begins to soften, or buyer demand remains possibly steady, but supply begins to increase, wow, if there are more houses on the market, okay, that means buyers have more options, and so sellers are gonna have to bring their prices down in order to compete for a buyer. So I know that's a lot to really consider here, but those are the things that we have to pay attention to. Overall, so much is driven by the consumer, okay? Consumer confidence. And so that is driven by confidence in the economy, confidence in their job, confidence that there is income coming into the household. So pay attention to these things, okay? Number one, pay attention to how long we are going to be in the situation we're in right now. Number two, ask your local real estate agent, hey, what are we seeing when it comes to the analytics, to the stats? Is buyer demand becoming more soft? Are we seeing more houses come on the market? And so depending on which spectrum you're at, whether you're a buyer or a seller, that should influence you in whatever route you want to take. There are going to be some sellers that are gonna, put their house on the market to cash out on the equity they have. On the other end, we could see buyers out there that are confident in their jobs. Interest rates are still low, and they want to take advantage of the low interest rates, and buyer demand could remain steady and strong. We'll see how it plays out, okay? If you are a buyer and you're asking yourself, should I be buying a house right now? I would say it really depends on your job situation. If you feel fully confident that you are going to have a job that is going to be paying you whatever your budget is after this crisis we're in, buy your house. Go out there and house hunt as best as possible with the shelter in place and so on. Go out there and shop for your house, and you are going to be okay. If you're a buyer waiting to see if prices are gonna come crashing down, thinking you are gonna buy a house for $100,000 less here in 6 months, that's not the case. Stop renting and buy your house. You'll be okay. Now, if you are a buyer that is on the fence whether or not you should be buying your house right now, and you are uncertain about your current work and income, and you are uneasy thinking, oh my gosh, is my job going to be there after this is done? Well, you should probably wait it out and see what's going to happen, because you don't want to be found in a situation where you buy your house right now and 6 months down the road you got laid off, and now you're wondering how you are going to be making your mortgage payments. Okay, if you're confident in your job, take advantage of the interest rates right now and go buy your house. If you're nervous about your job, just wait it out and see what it's going to look like for you after this is done. If you're a seller and you're asking yourself, should I be selling my house right now? I would say, if your plans are to buy a house after you sell your house and you have confidence in your job and everything seems okay for you, put your house on the market. There are buyers out there still buying their house. If you're a seller that has to liquidate and you need the money to live for the next 6 months because you got laid off, you got let go, income is low, you need money, sell your house. That's why you bought it in the first place. That's why you have equity in it right now. You can put your house on the market, and if it's priced well, you have an incredible real estate agent, your house will sell. Get the money and pass this season and buy your house once again after this is all over. If you're thinking that house prices are gonna come, just crashing down, and you're afraid about putting your house on the market, everything we're seeing right now is not showing us that. So put your house on the market. If you have to sell, most likely you are gonna find a buyer. Well, I hope this brought some clarity to you. I know it's a lot of information to process, but at the same time, there's so much going on and things are literally changing every single day. If you have a specific question you want to ask, please reach out via Instagram and or on Facebook or on YouTube and or email me. I promise you, I respond to every question that is always asked to me. Well, that wraps up episode 111 of the Steve Talks Real Estate Show. I hope this brought some clarity in the midst of so much chaos happening right now. We are going to get through this, I promise you. Stay safe out there, stay healthy, keep sending in your questions, and I will do my best to keep on answering them. We'll see you next time.